loads of you getting to already on that court issue. Della says, has anyone thought of the victims? My brother was murdered. Our case was at the old Bailey. It was bad enough seeing the public in the gallery. We wouldn't want to see our pain televised for everyone. Well, would they show are they literally going to show the defendant and the judge, or are they going to show a wider court view?
The judge.
I don't know, maybe.
Well, Sean says it's a good idea to give us an academic, intellectual insight into our UK judicial process in action for major crimes.
David says it's going too far. Voyeurism for the public, watching people's emotions during some of the worst times in their life. Yeah, I get that as well. Keep your thoughts coming through. It's interesting how it's split like that so far. Anyway, time to go through the papers this morning. We're joined this morning by the legendary broadcaster Liz Kershaw and the author James Bloodworth. Good to see you both this morning. Liz, let's start with the Express, should we? And the cost of living, energy bills.
Well, obviously, this is a huge issue and it's in all the papers, but the Express has really gone big with it on its front page above every other thing to worry about at the moment. I mean, the average cost of gas and electricity was about £1,150 until relatively recently, and now by this autumn winter it could be £3,800, which is 3.5 times as much. I mean, it's bad enough because I know you pay by direct debit, don't you?
Yeah.
And I'm wondering what the wise thing to do. I've never done that. I've just paid when the bill came.
It just evens it out over the year.
Yeah, but then they've got your money all year.
Oh, for a while, yeah.
Like when my mum died, they owed hundreds, EDF and people like that, owed hundreds of pounds. They've been taking off a woman living alone in a large house. Their estimates were just outrageous, and we had to try and get all that back. Anyway, the point is, do you want a shock or do you want to pay monthly? But when you're thinking about people having a £500 a month direct debit, or a shock bill of nearly £1,000. I just don't know how they. People can't do it.
No.
They just can't do it. I mean, I just think about the people who are on benefits or on a state pension are going to through the social security system get these payments. Not from Rishi Sunak. Hello, it's not his money. Stop trading on it. It's our money from the Treasury. So they're going to get that. But the people who are going out to work, with kids, who need to use a car to get to work because there's no public transport available, people on shifts, or people who drive a van, it's a couple, both working, maybe more than one job. It's just really crippling, and the lower paid ones, are the ones who will suffer most because they don't get either the state's handouts or a large salary to deal with it.
Yeah.
But it's just mind-boggling, and it's not going to end. I'm always, me, people think, oh, she's a bit simpler, she's so cheerful all the time, but I am a half-glass full person, but even I can't see any good news about this. And Putin is going to use it as a weapon.
Oh, yeah.
He doesn't need to invade anywhere else. He can bring down the economy of Germany first, but practically overnight. So, anyway, it's going to be a hot water bottle up my onesie and a log fire for me in one room for the winter, I think.
Yeah, it's awful. I mean, I just don't know how people can't economise to save the money. They're just not going to have the money to pay this.
I've had a good idea. Remember when the shower burst and the water poured through my dining room ceiling?
And you came and used my shower.
I came round to yours every day for a month. I'm going to pretend my boiler's packed on.
Yeah, not a chance, you're not getting in. Tell you that for nothing.
Well, shorter showers may be on the horizon.
Well, yes.
And James, talk us through some really quite stunning headlines about how little rain we've had.
So, yeah, we're on record to have the driest January in 111 years. Which
July, I think.
Driest July in 111 years, yes. Which goes back all the way to the year the Titanic was launched. So that's how long ago it was. And they've already introduced a hosepipe ban in the Isle of Man. And, I mean, this is another sign, I think, of the impact of climate change, basically. I mean, the last thing we talked about was cost of energy bills, and I think that demonstrates how we need to move to greener forms of energy, so we're not reliant on countries like Russia for our energy supplies. So we can produce that domestically. But I think the state of the weather, the lack of rain, the heat wave, these are all examples of how we really need to get on top of climate change, because it is starting to have a day-to-day impact on individuals in this country and all over the world. But at the moment, it's this summer really feels like a turning point in terms of the weather.
Does it? Can I just ask a genuine question?
Yeah, go on.
So the headline is driest July since
I know what you're going to say.
1911. And previous to that, it was 1836, just before Queen Victoria came to the throne.
Yeah.
1911, yes, we were filthy. It was the height of the industrial development revolution in this country, and buildings were black. There were killer smogs in London. Factories were pouring out soot, and the coal mines were running 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. But in 1836, not so much. It was a lot, the Industrial Revolution hadn't kicked off. So it's okay saying this is the driest July. Oh, it must be climate change. Well, possibly.
It's the trend, though.
Possibly.
I think
Is this a trend?
because it's a single year.
No, sorry, maths. What's the trend between 1836, 1911, and 2022?
9 out of the 10 hottest years have been since 2003.
Hottest year since
On record.
since the current way of recording things was
Well, that goes
introduced in
back-
1850. So I really resent I'm all for getting the facts, but I really resent headlines like on TV News the other night, BBC, or in some of the papers today. Hottest summer ever, or hottest day, the other last week, 40 degrees, hottest day ever. No, this was tropical country 10,000 years ago.
Yeah.
In medieval times, we had mosquitoes and swamps. The Romans introduced vineyards because it was swamp. In the Henry VIII's time, there were terrible droughts and periods of sustained killer heat waves. So let's just
Wasn't that because
use
there
the
wasn't running water then, though? I mean, people didn't have water into their homes then at that time. It's not really comparable today, where we do
Sorry,
have.
what's that? What's
Well, there wasn't a water system then, so it's not comparable to today.
how does water come through the tap?
I mean,
in the house affect?
Well, you can officially have a drought if people haven't got access to water. Because
There's
of
no
weather.
doubt that water is very low, and we really have to be careful and conserve it. I mean, the way that we always, when I was growing up, gauged how bad the water supply situation was just by going on moors, playing out, or driving across, and you go, oh, look at the dam, oh, the water's low, and you could see the cobbled sides that shouldn't be able to, and you can see that now, and it's really worrying. And I personally am cutting back on water, and we all should be responsibly, that there is a lack of water, and it could become more serious quite quickly, because it happens. I remember my mum telling me the summer when she had me in a pram, and she was about to have my brother 3 months later, and they all went up to the reservoir because this village that had been drowned when they built the reservoirs in the 30s had been exposed for the first time. You could see the clock tower on the chapel, and the bell was still there, and all these spooky stories about it. These things happen. So yes, give me the facts, and I'll be the first to say we must do something about it, and we must take charge of our own affairs and help for the common good. But don't give me headlines like hottest day ever, and there's a trend in temperatures or water, rainfall, when it goes back before the Industrial Revolution. I went to the University of Reading. I went to the University of Reading. I appeared on Sky News doing this paper review 5 or 6 years ago. I made some comment, probably similar to what I'm doing today, just asking questions, wanting facts. I was invited the day to the University of Reading, which has a huge climate change department, massive funding for it, and we went back through data back to 1604, and then I said, well, show me a pattern, and they couldn't, and I said, and have you applied historical events to these peaks in temperature or cold snaps? What do you mean? Well, like Krakatoa in 1865 caused 3 years of freezing temperatures and crop failure and famine. The reason there was the French Revolution was because There was famine across Europe because of volcanic activity. Let's apply all this before we get hysterical. There's a real issue with water, with temperatures, I get that. But let's not start beating ourselves up and scaring kids.
Yeah. Well, let us know what you think. GBViews at gbnews.uk.
James, do you have anything to chime in on that? Is it scary?
I want to scare the kids. No, I mean, I don't want to scare the kids, but I think it's important to be mindful of how much water you're using when it's not necessary with things like hose pipes, etc.
James, let's have a look at inflation, should we? This is the FT, just to finish off on a cheery note.
Yes, so the United States Federal Reserve has increased interest rates. Basically, that's to try and damp down inflation. We have a similar situation here, but it's worse in this country with inflation. I think what worries me at the moment with this is we have two Tory leadership candidates who, I mean, I'm not a Conservative myself, but what worries me is Liz Truss, who's the favourite, is talking about tax cuts, which economic experts say could have a worse effect on inflation, could increase inflation really more than it is increasing already. And inflation is the thing that's really hurting people at the moment in terms of the cost of living. So, I mean, I would hope that the Tory leadership candidates in this country would pay some attention to what's going on in the United States, the Federal Reserve, the action they're taking, and see the impact their own policies could have on the cost of living this side of the Atlantic.
Okay, got to leave it there. James, Liz, thank you very much indeed. You're out of time.
Thank you.
You've eaten it all up.
Next time.
I've put you on for half an hour.